Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shah, Yahweh, Baha Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Baha Hashem, Perha Kadash. All praises, honor, glory, love, respect, faith, and power, and trust, and all credit to my Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and my Heavenly Big Brother, Yahweh Shah. Thank you so much for what you've done, what you're doing, and what you're going to do. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops of GMS, great millstone, who I learned from, and all the men scattered all over the world, teaching His truth and none but the truth in the name, spirit, and the power of Yahweh Bashim Shah, trying to put a spiritual bug in you Hebrew Israelites' ears, you so-called black Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Indians, and just speckled birds. And what is a speckled bird? That be a Hebrew Israelite that look like some of the heathen nations, like for example, a Hebrew Israelite that look like a so-called white person, so-called Chinese person, etc., etc. Got some videos lined up on what's going on around the world. I'm gonna play these videos. I'm gonna get into the scripture my best ability, say whatever God say through spirit and the power of Yahweh by Shema Shah, the Holy Spirit of Kurhak Wadash, Lord will be on me. Let's get it.
The global oil market just got hit with a seismic shock. Yes, another one. After more than 50 years as part of Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, the United Arab Emirates has decided to leave. And this isn't a small change. This could reshape how oil prices are set, how countries cooperate, and how energy flows around the world. So what exactly happened, and why does this matter? On April the 28th, the UAE announced it would officially exit OPEC starting May 1st. This is a big deal because the UAE is not a minor producer. It's one of the largest oil producers in the group in the world. It pumps millions of barrels per day, and it has the ability to produce even more if it wants to. For decades, OPEC has worked like a coordinated group. It is a cartel, officially. Countries agree to limit or to increase oil production to influence global prices. That is the point. That coordination is what gives OPEC its power. But now, one of its key members is walking away. So why did the UAE make this decision? Well, the biggest reason is very simple. It is freedom. Inside OPEC, countries have to follow production quotas. That means limits on how much oil they can pump. The UAE has spent years and years investing billions into expanding its production capacity, and it doesn't really want to be held back anymore. By leaving, it can produce as much oil as it wants whenever it wants. There's also a long-term strategy behind this. The UAE wants to be more flexible as global energy demand changes. So instead of being tied to a group decision, it wants the ability to react quickly to market conditions and to maximize its output to increase profits. Another factor, which is arguably one of the most important ones, is growing tension with Saudi Arabia, which is the dominant force inside OPEC. There have been disagreements for years over how much oil to produce and how to manage prices.
I'm asking a question to our colleague from UAE. Have you only now discovered that it is against your interests? That's one. The second question, why is it at this very critical period? Third, you have excess capacity of not more than 500,000 barrels per day. Couldn't you wait until you get to 5 million barrels per day, as you rightly say? There are many questions. So the timing, the volume of the capacity, etc., etc. All these questions surprises us that they are taking this decision right at this moment.
Also, the UAE and Saudi Arabia pursue different interests in Yemen, which adds to the tension inside OPEC. This move suggests those tensions have finally reached a breaking point. And then there is geopolitics, of course, especially the ongoing US-Israel war against Iran. The conflict has disrupted oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important routes in global energy. That crisis exposed how difficult it is for OPEC to respond quickly and effectively, which likely pushed the UAE to go its own way. When you look at the bigger picture, the UAE is making a calculated move. It believes that it can do better outside OPEC than inside it. Why? Well, because it's one of the lowest cost oil producers in the world. It can produce oil cheaply, and it can scale up production very quickly. It has also built infrastructure, including pipelines that avoid the Strait of Hormuz. And that infrastructure gives it more flexibility than many other countries in the region. From the UAE's point of view, staying at OPEC means limiting its own potential. Leaving gives it more independence and possibly more revenue. But this decision doesn't just affect the UAE, of course. It has big consequences for OPEC itself. OPEC's strength comes from coordination. When members act together, they can influence global oil prices. But that only works if major producers stay inside the group. The UAE had significant spare capacity, meaning it could increase production quickly when needed. Now that capacity is outside OPEC's control, and it actually weakens the group. It also raises a very important question. If the UAE can leave, could others follow? We've already seen smaller countries exit in recent years, but this one is different. This is a major producer stepping away, and it could encourage others to rethink their position too. So what what happens to oil prices? I'm sure that's one of the main questions that many of you have at the moment. Well, in the short term, probably not much. The global energy market is already under a tremendous amount of pressure because of the war against Iran. Supply is tight and prices are already relatively high, in some cases over $100 per barrel. But over the long term, things could shift. If the UAE increases production on its own, it could actually add more supply to the market, which would of course push prices down. At the same time, less coordination between producers could lead to more volatility and more unpredictability, of course. So instead of a group managing supply, you could have countries acting independently, which often leads to bigger price swings. There are also bigger geopolitical implications here. OPEC has long been a symbol of collective power in the Middle East. The UAE leaving sends a signal of a shift away from that model and toward a more independent, competitive approach. It also highlights growing rivalry within the Gulf, especially between the UAE and Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned earlier. This is no longer a completely unified group. It is becoming more competitive and more fragmented. If you zoom out even further, this move reflects a larger trend in global energy. The old system where OPEC played the dominant role in controlling supply is starting to weaken. Today, the market is influenced by many more factors. You have US shale production, geopolitical tensions, and the global push toward renewable energy, of course. All of these forces are changing how the energy market works. The UAE is adapting to that new reality, to that new environment. Instead of relying on a cartel, it's choosing flexibility and it's choosing more independence. And it's choosing the ability to scale production on its own terms. So the bottom line is this: the UAE leaving OPEC is more than just a headline. It is a turning point. It weakens one of the most powerful groups in global energy. It increases uncertainty in oil markets. And I would say that it signals a shift toward a more fragmented and competitive system. The big question now is, what comes next? Is this the beginning of the end for OPEC as we know it, or just the first step in a much bigger transformation of the global energy market? Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. I hope to...
Wouldn't that affect the petrodollar? I mean, I don't know much about all this shit. I'm just playing the news and saying whatever I got to say and pray to get into the scripts of my best ability. There is that one brother that's talking about this, you might have a better understanding of. If I could find out what channel that was. I don't know if I played that video. I thought I was going to play it. Let me see if I can find his video at least. I don't think I'll be able to find it. Man, I don't think I'll be able to find it. Hold on. Maybe I will be. Oh, here you go. He had a video about it. It goes into it. Hold on, let me bring it over here this way. Which one is it? It was this one right here. Let's play some of it.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises.
And this is about May the 1st. They leaving out of OPEC.
Honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And back with a few headlines on here. Now today you had UAE, right, which is as you can see here, one of the prominent members of OPEC. Okay, just announced that they are going to be pretty much leaving, right? OPEC, effective May 1st. Okay, which, you know, that's also, I mean, just even the news of that is sending oil prices up, but that's also going to leave some pretty lasting effects, considering that it's not, I mean, based on how these things go, there's a great probability that it's not going to be just the UAE, right? Should they actually leave? I mean, they said they are. May 1st is a couple of days away. They're not going to be the only ones, right? Don't be surprised if shortly after other nations that are in there start to also leave, because as this closure of the strait has put a lot of strain upon the global economy, it's also put a lot of strain on those Gulf states as well. So let's read a little bit of this here. First of many, UAE exits OPEC as Iran chaos triggers nationalistic realignment among producers. Remember something about countries that are considered producers of whatever it is they produce. When you are a producer, you first, take care of what you have at home, right? When there's shortages or, whatever the case is, you're not going to prioritize exporting goods that you need domestically first. You need to prioritize what you have first. It's kind of like... Yeah, it will. Well, you got another one. You know what?
I didn't see that video. My girl, the other heathen chick. I assume she's a heathen. She got a video too. If I can get to it. Man, I need to zoom in, zoom out. Yeah, I'm done with Nina. That's a sad. That's a sad Edomite woman. She's like, I'm oppressed. I'm depressed. She's like she's like she was sitting on top of a building, and then she all of a sudden just jumps off the bitch. And damn, commit suicide. I don't know if I'm gonna play that. Nah, fuck that video. I ain't gonna play that. No, I'll play it. Fuck it. Let me finish up bruh video. I ain't gonna play too much of bruh video.
Having an excess of.
But if you want to get edified with what he got to say, I'm pretty sure he gonna get into some scriptures more than I can. But here go the title of the video. There go the channel.
Let's just say energy or electricity, right? And just for example's sake, here it is. You got power outages in your country because you don't have enough energy, but you're prioritizing sending all right, most if not all of your energy to other countries. That doesn't make sense. Okay, when things get scarce, exporters of rice keep the rice that they can use for themselves first. So it says here, just days after the UAE publicly signaled liquidity concerns by requesting swap lines from the Federal Reserve to ease pressures on the country's banks, major Gulf oil producer, the UAE, has decided to exit the oil cartel, an unexpected development that crossed Bloomberg headlines on Tuesday morning. Now, I believe they also declared force majeure, which, you know, due to the obvious situation, now it's looking like a stalemate over there at that strait. They wouldn't, those Gulf countries that had obligations, right, in terms of producing and delivering certain energy and goods, wouldn't be able to do that due to factors that they don't control. So it's now getting to the point where obviously they're not broadcasting everything going on internally, but they have to now start making these decisions because they're like, yo, you know, this doesn't look like something that's just going to blow over in a day or two.
All right. I won't have time to finish all the rest of the video. I'll play a little bit of it, but there go the title of it. There go his channel. I move on to, what's that chick name? I don't know, the Swedish chick. House of Ale.
The United Arab
Yeah, that's her name, Ale. Let me speed her ass up.
Emirates announced Tuesday it will exit OPEC and OPEC Plus effective May 1st, ending 59 years of membership in the oil exporters cartel. The decision came just days after U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent publicly backed an emergency dollar swap line for Abu Dhabi before the Senate. That timing is not coincidental. It is actually catastrophic for American influence in the Middle East. The UAE is the world's 7th largest oil producer, accounting for roughly 4% of global production. It just walked away from the cartel that has anchored the petrodollar system for half a century. Deutsche Bank economists warned the Iran conflict could be remembered as a key catalyst for erosion in petrodollar dominance in the beginnings of the petro-yuan. The UAE's exit accelerates that collapse. I'm El, I have a PhD in computer science, and I use data analysis to spot patterns in geopolitics and economics. Here's why this matters beyond energy markets. The UAE floated the possibility of pricing some oil transactions in Chinese yuan if dollar liquidity tightened, which is a scenario that would accelerate the erosion of dollar dominance in global energy markets. The dollar's share of global foreign exchange reserves has fallen to roughly 57% at 25-year low, down from a peak of 72% in 2001. Ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz have at times paid tolls to Iran in Bitcoin. Iran sells an increasing share of its oil to China in yuan, and India may now be buying Iranian oil in yuan as well. The architecture that gave the USA control over global energy transactions is now crumbling in real time. OPEC was never just about oil prices, however. It was the backbone of the petrodollar system. Middle Eastern producers sold oil in dollars. Those dollars flowed back into U.S. Treasury bonds, and that arrangement gave Washington enormous leverage over global finance. The UAE joined OPEC in 1967, 4 years before the founding of the UAE itself. Abu Dhabi was an early member of the cartel that would become essential to American financial dominance, but now it's gone. The UAE energy minister said the move reflects a policy-driven evolution aligned with long-term market fundamentals. When asked whether the UAE consulted with OPEC heavyweight Saudi Arabia, he said the UAE did not raise the issue with any other country. This is a policy decision, he said. It has been done after a careful look at current and future policies related to level of production. That's basically diplomatic phrasing for we're done taking orders from Riyadh and by extension from Washington. Let's focus on what triggered the break. The UAE has been absorbing Iranian missile strikes largely alone during this war. A UAE diplomatic advisor made that frustration very explicit at the Gulf Influencers Forum on Monday, just hours before the OPEC announcement. He said the Gulf Cooperation Council countries supported each other logistically, but politically and militarily, I think their position has been the weakest historically. Translation in normal words, America launched a war that put us in Iran's crosshairs, then left us to defend ourselves. We're done relying on American security guarantees. The piece that most coverage misses is that the UAE has production capacity of 4.85 million barrels per day, but has been producing close to 30% below capacity due to OPEC quotas. As part of OPEC Plus, the UAE watched as Iraq and Russia routinely exceeded their quotas while Abu Dhabi followed the rules. Andy Lipow, president of Lipow Oil Associates, told CNBC, I'm quoting, "When the conflict between the USA and Iran ends and the Strait of Hormuz reopens, I expect that the UAE will produce as much oil as they can, utilizing any spare capacity that they have held in reserve. That flood of new supply will be priced however the UAE wants, dollar, yuan, whatever they like, or perhaps even a basket of currencies. America basically loses veto power." We've actually got a whole playlist on how the petrodollar system is collapsing. Check it out after this one. The UAE's exit is just one piece of a systematic unwinding of post-World War II financial architecture. The exit deals a heavy blow to the oil cartel and its de facto leader, Saudi Arabia. Once firm allies, Abu Dhabi and Riyadh have developed a simmering rivalry, clashing on issues from oil policy and regional geopolitics to the race for foreign talent and capital. The two countries backed opposing forces in Yemen. They're competing economically as Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 strategy vies for foreign investment the UAE historically captured. Ahmed Halal of advisory firm The Asia Group wrote that Saudi Arabia and the UAE are the Gulf's two biggest economies, and the deteriorating relationship between them will have a lasting effect on regional security coordination and cross-border business. For Washington, this creates a genuine strategic disaster. America's Middle East policy for 70 years relied on Saudi Arabia controlling OPEC and pricing oil in dollars. The UAE was OPEC's most influential member behind Saudi Arabia, one of the few with meaningful spare production capacities to influence prices and respond to supply shocks. Jorge Leon, head of geopolitical analysis at Rystad Energy, said losing a member with 4.8 million barrels per day of capacity and the ambition to produce more takes a real tool out of the group's hands. He added Saudi Arabia is now left doing more of the heavy lifting on price stability, and the market loses one of the few shock absorbers it had left. The financial exposure for American power is very measurable. OPEC has absorbed departures before. Qatar left in 2019, Angola left 2 years ago, but the UAE is categorically different. Qatar produces almost entirely natural gas rather than oil, so its exit didn't alter OPEC's clout. Angola's output was modest enough that markets barely flinched. The UAE is OPEC's third largest producer alongside Iran. Its departure weakens the cartel's control over global supply and critically removes one of the few producers still reliably pricing major volumes in dollars. A UAE statement said, "During our time in the organization, we made significant contributions and even greater sacrifices for the benefit of all. However, the time has come to focus our efforts on what our national interest dictates." That phrasing, sacrifices for the benefit of all, is very pointed, I think. The UAE followed OPEC discipline while others cheated. It absorbed Iranian strikes while GCC allies offered minimal support. It maintained dollar pricing while yuan options became viable. Well, now it's done sacrificing for a system that did not protect it. The UAE diplomatic advisor's comments about GCC military support being the weakest historically came during a summit on Monday where Gulf leaders met in Saudi Arabia specifically to address thousands of Iranian missile and drone strikes their nations faced since the US and Israel launched the war in late February. The UAE absorbed the heaviest bombardment. America provided intelligence but minimal direct defense. The message received in Abu Dhabi was basically American security guarantees are conditional and insufficient. Build alternatives. But the biggest tell, I think, is the timing with the dollar swap. Treasury Secretary Besant publicly backed emergency dollar liquidity for the UAE just days before the OPEC exit announcement. We actually predicted this in a former video. Washington clearly saw the risk. The swap line was meant to keep the UAE tied to dollar-denominated systems. It didn't work. The UAE took the liquidity insurance and left OPEC anyway. So that is not alliance management. It is more a client state declaring independence. When thinking about how reserve currency status shifts to institutional fractures like this rather than some dramatic announcements, my book Awake the Practical Top cannot join this brewing new regime, meaning the yuan-based energy trading system emerging between Iran, China, Russia, and potentially India. But that calculation assumed the UAE values American financial architecture more than sovereignty and security. The OPEC exit suggests otherwise, doesn't it? If dollar liquidity tightens again, or if Washington imposes conditions the UAE dislikes, pricing oil in yuan becomes the leverage Abu Dhabi just preserved by leaving the cartel. Global crude oil prices, currently above $110, did not respond at all to the news, which in normal times would likely have caused a dramatic price reaction. This is because the UAE, like other oil producers in the region, is currently limited in how much it can export due to Iranian attacks and the US blockage strangling traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. But once the Strait of Hormuz reopens, the UAE will pump freely. No quotas, no coordination with Riyadh, no deference to Washington's preferences for dollar pricing. The departure of an important cartel member will weaken OPEC's ability to control the oil market. There is significant risk of higher oil price volatility as a result. That volatility undermines one of the core functions OPEC provided for American interests: predictable supply management by producers who priced in dollars. Here's what this reveals about American power in the Gulf. It is optional and not automatic, and this is a huge deal. Trump launched a war that put UAE cities under Iranian bombardment, then provided insufficient defense. He imposed a naval blockade that collapsed UAE oil exports, he demanded OPEC cooperation while undermining the cartel's discipline. The UAE absorbed all of it, concluded American protection is unreliable, and just built an exit. The petrodollar system survived for 50 years, in part because Middle Eastern producers had no alternatives. Paul Bluestein of the Center for Strategic and International Studies argued that Saudis chose the dollar in the 1970s not because of a secret deal, but because of TINA. There is no alternative, given the depth and liquidity of U.S. capital markets. That is still partly true, but partially is the problem. Yuan clearing systems exist now. Bitcoin settlement works, the dollar remains dominant, but it's no longer the only option. And once producers have options, American leverage evaporates. America claims to lead the global system. That system depends on Middle Eastern oil priced in dollars. But if America launches wars that endanger producers, imposes blockades that collapse their exports, and provides inadequate defense when they come under attack, those producers will just build alternatives. Of course they will. The UAE just did exactly that. It left OPEC preserve the option to price in yuan and told Washington the sacrifices are over. Nobel economist Joseph Stiglitz says Trump's Iran war destroyed the global economy and repairs will take years. We analyze that economic catastrophe in the video on your screen right now. It's definitely worth watching because the UAE leaving OPEC is just one more casualty of a war that accomplished nothing strategically and broke everything financially. America had 70 years of petrodollar dominance. Trump flushed it down the drain in just 8 weeks. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe, and I'll see you on the next.
What is this about? Man, that's just brand new. Man, fuck that shit.
Everybody is downplaying this level of shock to the entire U.S. economy. Like, there is no way that it can survive in the way that it was before as a result of this war.
Yeah, well, I keep coming back to something that Rory Johnston has told us, that he thinks that traders are underestimating the impact because the reality is just too awful to actually price in. And so this Bloomberg piece sort of speaks to that dynamic. We can put this up on the screen. They say the billion-barrel Hormuz oil shock is about to crash demand. The Strait of Hormuz oil shock has yet to crash demand as the rich world borrows from its stocks and pays up to secure supply. Traders are now sounding the alarm that a harsh adjustment is coming. The longer the vital oil channel does not reopen, traders say the more consumption is going to have to recalibrate lower to align with supply that's dropped at least 10%. For that to happen, people will have to buy less, either through prices they can't afford or government intervention to force consumption down. 1 billion barrels of supply loss is already all but guaranteed, more than double the emergency inventories that governments released not long after the conflict began at the end of February. Buffers are being used up fast, helping to keep a lid on oil prices for now. But with the closure now in its 9th week, demand destruction that started in less obvious sectors like petrochemicals in Asia is quietly spreading to everyday markets the world over. And so, they go on to say we are at a critical inflection point, and obviously here, no end in sight. You know, not only do we have the Iranians controlling what goes through, you have the U.S. Implementing some level of blockade and going after Iranian ships around the world as well. That's part of the stated policy. And as you were saying before, Sagar, there is some indication that Iran is still able to move some of their oil product, but certainly it is much, 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 much less than pre-war. So at some point, they use these like economic terms of art, like demand destruction, etc. What does that mean? It means that people will not be able to afford gas. It means the poor world is screwed. It means we're going to have a hunger crisis. It means that, your budget is going to be stretched to the breaking point and you are not going to be going the places that you had planned on being able to go. It means for working class people are going to struggle to afford even just to get to work and have that work out. So that's, that is what we are on the precipice of right now.
Yeah, look, it's already here. Can we put C3 up there on the screen? I'm amazed that this is not a bigger story. This is from the Financial Times. They went through the numbers. It says U.S. motorists skimp at the pump as Iran war keeps petrol prices high. I love British phraseology. They say between February and March, average petrol sales, that's gas for those of us here in the U.S., per station in the northeastern U.S. fell 4.3% in March compared with a 0.6% growth in the same period as last year. This is from data which tracks consumer spending at more than 23,000 gas stations across the nation. How is this not a bigger story? In the northeastern United States, gas demand has fallen by 4.3%. That is actually huge. Again, as they point out, last year, 0.6% of an overall increase. I mean, as I understand it, when the weather gets better, people tend to drive more and they take more trips. This is something which is very expected. That's part of the reason why whenever the weather starts to get February to March, you're going to start to see a spike. You've got almost a 5% drop in gas demand in the very same period as when you had an increase over, or at least stasis, in the same period of last year. 5% gas is huge. I mean, it's not like you can 5% for a commodity which the vast majority of people are going to basically drive no matter what. It takes a lot for people to consume less gas. And to say 5% as if it's like some willy-nilly thing is just not accurate, I think, whatsoever. Think about what a 5% drop in consumer spending in the United States would mean. It would be catastrophic, actually, for a lot of the U.S. retail industry. What would 5% mean whenever it comes to GDP or any of these things? Like, it is not a small number, and it is a number from just 1 month that we saw an overall reduction in the amount of gas consumption. So that's here. I mean, look, I can only speculate, but there's just no way, if gas in Los Angeles is going for $6.79 a gallon or $7 a gallon, something like that, that people are going to be driving as much. It's just not possible, like literally financially, without, crazy credit card debt. People are going to make maybe the conscious or the unconscious choice of saying, we're not going to do X, Y, and Z. And remember, gas is just about on your way to go there. It's also about all the things you might have spent and the dollars that you may have had.
As soon as it's going to be too expensive to even go to work. shit, filling up your tank gonna be your paycheck for the whole week.
Once you had arrived at that different destination. So this is a serious quality of life hit, period. And I think it will also show up very soon in the data. Let's put C4 on the screen. This was another report, which I was reading just yesterday. So Goldman Sachs put out a new report, basically for their own, like it's a research style report. And they forecast that the U.S. could lose 10,000 jobs a month this year as the oil shock ripples through the economy. This was in a client note. A team of economists at the bank said they anticipate high unemployment and slow job growth to ripple through the end of the year as the impact of high oil prices ripples across the economy. In the bank's base scenario, the oil price would shave off 10,000 jobs a month through the end of the year, even after accounting for expected job gains in the energy sector. The bank also said it expects unemployment to tick higher to 4.6 by the end of the third quarter, and the economy will lose 92,000 jobs just as part of the latest non-farm payrolls report.
All right, whatever. Anyway, looking bad for America. This same way for the rest of the world. I should have played this video on something else, because I got another video regarding the economy. Matter of fact, fuck it. I'm going to shift this video. And next time, whenever I get to play a video about the economy, I'll play more of this, maybe. Let me move this. Oh, shit, I can't even move it. I hate when that happens. YouTube's a piece of shit. Man, I got to sneeze. Slocky. Let me save this video for something else. Let's get to another video. But yeah, man, it's getting bad. The Lord is breaking it on down. Let's see what this is about. Petrodollar.
The United Arab Emirates announced Tuesday.
I already played that one.
The European Union will propose restricting entry for former Russian combatants by June, EU High Representative Kaja Kallas announced after a Foreign Affairs Council meeting this week. The proposal targets individuals who participated in Russia's war against Ukraine, regardless of rank or role. If you fought in Ukraine for Russia, you'll be permanently barred from entering the EU. The Ukrainian foreign minister welcomed the plan, posting on X, "This is a timely and welcome step that will show every Russian that by signing a contract to fight a criminal war of aggression against Ukraine, they also sign an entry ban to Europe." I'm El, I have a PhD in computer science and I use data analysis to spot patterns in geopolitics and economics. Here's the security logic driving this. The Estonian foreign minister told reporters in January, "We have close to 1 million combatants in Russia. They're mainly criminals. They're very dangerous people." And he added, I'm quoting again, "I'm sure and we will have information that most of them will come to Europe after the war, and Europe is not ready for that." Estonia already imposed a permanent entry ban on 261 Russian soldiers who participated in the invasion.
Burt Jones is everything I hate about politics.
He's had 14 years. What's he done?
The framing was very blunt. There can be no path from Bucha to Brussels, Bucha being the suburb of Kiev where Russian forces committed documented massacres of civilians. The mechanism becomes fairly clear here. Russia recruited heavily from prisons to fill manpower gaps. Convicts were offered pardons and payment in exchange for fighting, so they're not really career military professionals with institutional discipline. They're individuals pulled from the criminal justice system, given weapons training, and sent to a war zone.
That's going for a lot of countries. They're going to do that, especially when World War III gets more serious.
When the war ends, whether through ceasefire, frozen conflict, or Russian defeat, those combatants return to civilian life. Russia's economy is contracting right now. The Russian central bank has cut interest rates 8 times in 12 months while struggling to portray stability. Job prospects for returning veterans will likely be limited. Europe, with higher wages and better living standards, becomes an attractive destination. If we zoom in on what the proposal actually does, Kaja Kallas said the EU will present formal measures by the June European Council meeting. Details have not been finalized yet, but the framework targets anyone who took part in military operations against Ukraine. Kallas, who served as Estonia's Prime Minister from 2021 to 2024 before becoming EU High Representative, said the issue would inevitably arise in any post-war scenario. It poses a clear security risk to Europe, she told reporters, adding that ministers agreed to continue exploring the idea and assess broader support among member states. The EU has already tightened visa rules for Russian nationals, scrapping multi-entry Schengen visas and requiring Russians to apply for new permits for each trip. The combatant ban goes even further. It's not a visa restriction, it is a permanent entry prohibition. Once you're on the list, you're banned for life, basically. The enforcement mechanism will depend on intelligence sharing and broader databases. European countries maintain watch lists of individuals flagged for security concerns. Adding Russian combatants to those systems means automatic rejection at any EU entry point. And the piece that most coverage glosses over is how do you actually identify who fought? Russia doesn't publish comprehensive...
Maybe with a microchip. Implant with a microchip, maybe. I don't know.
rosters of soldiers who deployed to Ukraine, many combatants used aliases or weren't officially registered. Enforcement will likely rely on intelligence agencies compiling lists based on intercepted communications, social media posts, battlefield captures, and defector testimony. Estonia's initial ban, covering 261 soldiers, came from intelligence gathering, likely a combination of signals intelligence, open source research, and Ukrainian military data. Scaling that to nearly 1 million combatants is a different magnitude of effort. When thinking about how security threats compound through predictable migration patterns, my book Awake the Practice of Critical Thinking in an Age of Russian Destabilization. She said, wars are not only fought with drones and missiles, we must also continue to fend off Moscow's destabilization attempts. The EU recently approved sanctions targeting Russian disinformation campaigns and extended restrictive measures against actors destabilizing Moldova. The combatant ban layers onto existing frameworks treating Russia as a persistent security threat, requiring multiple containment strategies. There is a deterrence component worth examining as well. If the ban is announced and publicized now while the war is ongoing, it signals to Russians considering military contracts that participation carries long-term consequences beyond the battlefield. You might survive the war, collect your payment, and go home, but you'll never visit Europe again. For Russians who have family in the EU, business ties, or aspirations to travel or emigrate, that is a real cost. Whether that deterrence is effective depends on how many potential recruits care about future European access versus immediate financial need. We've actually got a whole playlist on how Europe is systematically building security autonomy. Check it out after this video. The combatant ban fits the pattern of Europe treating proximity to Russia as requiring proactive risk mitigation rather than reactive crisis management.
I'm gonna start right there. If you want to watch the rest of the video, there go the title, there go her channel. I gotta move something around. Yeah, I don't find this video that interesting. Well, not so much. Well, they kicking and banning. What are they banning? 1 million Russian soldiers out of Europe. Yeah, because I guess because of trust and fellow Edomites, they're divided with one another. They don't trust the Russians, and they're Edomites too. Whatever. I don't give a shit. Anyway, let me see what I need to play next. I'll play this one. I gotta move stuff around.
It's time for the $9.99 Great Haircut Sale at Great Clips. Your chance to get a great haircut at a limited...
Americans are leaving the United States in unprecedented numbers, and it's not just talk anymore.
Now this sounds good.
Barnett, founder of relocation company
This sounds like something that I can really talk about, getting to the scriptures.
Told the Wall Street Journal that the profile of Americans leaving has fundamentally changed. Previously, the Americans leaving were super adventurous and well-credentialed. Now they're ordinary people like me, said Barnett, a 54-year-old Alabama native who moved to Mexico in 2024. The reasons are not subtle either. Trump's administration crackdown, mass deportation plans, and broader political climate are pushing people who never even considered leaving to start researching visas, ancestry records, and foreign tax codes. Canada just made that decision significantly easier for millions of Americans who didn't even know they qualified in the first place. I'm El, I have a PhD in computer science, and I use data analysis to spot patterns in geopolitics and economics. Just a very brief note today that many people have asked about. There is another channel, House of El-AI, and many of you have reached out to ask if it's somebody impersonating me. It is definitely still me. I just wanted to make videos on the topic of AI as well. You're welcome to subscribe if that's your cup of tea. Anyway, let's move on. On December 15th, Canada changed its citizenship law to allow status to pass down through unlimited ancestral generations for people born before that date. Anyone with a Canadian grandparent, great-grandparent, or further back may already be considered a Canadian citizen under the new rules. They're not applying to become citizen, they're asking Ottawa to acknowledge a right that legally already exists. Immigration lawyers on both sides of the border say applications for proof of citizenship have spiked to the point that some practices are dropping other work just to cope. And this is why the timing matters. The exodus from America is not hypothetical anymore, just something we chat about on YouTube. It is measurable, it is accelerating, and it's hitting demographics that historically stayed put. Jack Jedwa, president of the Association for Canadian Studies, said, I'm quoting him here, "The reality is America's own citizens are leaving in record numbers, replanting themselves and their families in lands they find more affordable. So they're not all going to Canada. In fact, most aren't. But Canada's citizenship law change just created a legal pathway that bypasses the usual immigration barriers entirely for anyone with the right family tree. If we strip away the political rhetoric, the pattern becomes even clearer. Americans are choosing Portugal for digital nomad visas and Mediterranean lifestyle, Ireland for ancestral links and European Union access, Thailand for retirement with dramatically lower living costs, Mexico for proximity and affordability. Each destination offers something the U.S. increasingly doesn't: predictability, lower costs, or distance from American political volatility. So who is actually leaving and why? Michelle Cunha from Bedford, Massachusetts, decided to move to Canada after 3 decades of political activism. I put in my best effort for 30 years. I have done everything that I possibly can to make the United States what it promises the world to be, a place of freedom, a place of equality, but clearly we're not there, and we're not going to get there anytime soon, she said.
Yeah, freedom. Freedom of what? Yeah, to do what? Yeah, shit. This bitch got to be destroyed. And I was going to say this. I don't know when I was going to say it, but on my way I was leaving to go to my I was going to the third job for today. On my way, I'm driving through this street, residential area. I see two people walking together on the sidewalk. One male and one appears to be a female. I noticed the hair was a lot of hair on their head. But then I looked, the shoulders were broad. But then I noticed this motherfucker wearing coochie cutters, short shorts, something. And I'm like, wait a minute, nigga. Soon as I drove past these two, just one was dressed with pants, looked like a male. It was a male. But when I went past him, I looked at my side view mirror. This motherfucker with the damn look dress and got the short shorts. This motherfucker was a fucking nigga. Had a face of a nigga. I was like, these motherfuckers got to die. These motherfuckers, Lord, please kill these niggas. I don't know if it was a prank, but this nigga here was walking with some fucking short shorts. I wanted to hit the fucking brakes and pull out that motherfucker. But I was like, no. I want to pull out that motherfucker and cuss that fucking faggot out. And I was thinking about some other things I wanted to do to this motherfucker, but I was like, no. Because then in this society, whatever I had on my mind I'm going to do that I can't bring up, I'm going to end up being locked up. I'm going to be on the run. I'm going to be locked up in jail, prison. And a lot of them motherfuckers in prison probably won't be appreciating what I just did, because they got a lot of them faggots up in there too. But man, I just feel like, Lord, exterminate these 2/3 niggas and bring them back in their right mind. Because goddamn, these niggas are not in their right mind. This is Babylon, man. And another thing I'm thinking of, if somebody else was riding with me, and you know this gonna happen, you riding with a motherfucker that's a wicked ass family member or somebody else, they'll probably say, you know you like what you seen. I was like, motherfucker, you gonna die. I would want your ass to die too, motherfucker. Shit. Hell yeah, I won't give a fuck if it was my mom or my daddy. You need to die too, motherfucker. Saying some shit like that, you wicked ass nigga. Anyway, hell fucking no. I was like, these niggas got to fucking go. And hey man, you got people here in America leaving out of here for so many reasons. Hell, you got people in their right mind that's seeking the Lord leaving out of here for all the reasons. You ain't picking and choosing. We want to get the hell off this planet, man. It ain't just America, but there's other Israelites that's vexing the spirit all over the world. We want to get the fuck out of here completely. Especially if you here in America, bro. Because goodness fucking gracious, bro. I'm tired of this fucking shit. Sorry, I have to say what I got to say. I don't want to say it too much, because then I already be hit with another hate speech, striking shit off YouTube. But I can say what the fuck I want to say on Odyssey. But I'm just like, goodness fucking gracious. This bitch is so... This is... God damn, I hate this fucking world. Back to the video.
She's not really celebrity posturing. That is a Massachusetts normal resident in her 50s concluding that political change through domestic activism is functionally impossible and choosing exit over further engagement. Trey Hicks from Nevada was motivated by an international trip. I recently went to Australia, and the first words out of the first person I talked to in Australia was basically an expletive about Trump and the US. After a 24-hour flight, that was...
They leaving because of Trump. Nigga, we leaving because... I want to leave out of here because, god damn, this place is fucked up and nasty. Man. And you gonna be around some wicked motherfuckers that gonna say, you know you like what you sing. Shut the fuck up, nigga. I've been around these motherfuckers saying smart ass shit, and you wanna just put these motherfuckers down. These wicked minded motherfuckers. Like I said, I don't give a fuck if it was a family member. They need to fucking go, nigga. These niggas need to fucking go with their wicked asses. Shit. This place sucks. That's why the Lord said this ain't your rest, because it's polluted. Shit. This is not your rest.
The idea of...
Flee out of the midst of Babylon.
Presenting a Canadian passport instead became easier, better, more palatable. Hicks had a great-grandfather born in Canada. Under the old law, he wouldn't have qualified. Under the new one, he's already Canadian. Florida resident Maureen Sullivan's trigger was more immediate. She said she was shaken when her teenage nephew encountered federal immigration officers near his high school in St. Paul, Minnesota. Canadian citizenship became a contingency plan if things really go south. Her grandmother was Canadian, and when she heard about the law change, Sullivan described it as this little gift that fell in my lap. The piece most coverage misses is that Canada's welcoming posture is not accidental, it is actually very strategic. The country has been actively trying to attract skilled workers from the US since at least 2015 through various programs like express entry and targeted recruitment for healthcare and technology professionals. The citizenship law change removes barrier for a specific subset of Americans who already have legal claim to status but didn't actually know it. That is millions of people who can now bypass immigration queues, point systems, and visa lotteries entirely. Nicholas Berning, an immigration attorney at Boundary Bay Law in Bellingham, Washington, said his practice is flooded. I'm quoting him here. We're pretty much flooded with this. We've kind of shifted a lot of other work away in order to push these cases through. In Vancouver, immigration lawyer Amandeep Hayer says his firm used to handle about 200 citizenship matters in an entire year. Now they're fielding more than 20 consultations per day, mostly from Americans trying to understand whether their grandparents' birthplace changes their legal identity. Hayer, who advocated for the reform in Parliament, is blunt about what it actually means. You are Canadian and you're considered to be one your whole life. That's really what you're applying for, the recognition of a right you already have vested. He compares it to a baby born in Canada, unmistakably Canadian even before the paperwork arrives. We've actually got a whole playlist on how countries are systematically building alternatives to US dependency. Check it out after this video. The citizenship law change fits that broader pattern of nations creating pathways that reduce reliance on American stability. The logistics are...
I mean, people leaving, people just coming here to America for a better life. Now they're getting the fuck out of here because now things have gotten worse. Heck yeah. But shit, the worst thing you gotta see, this motherfucking place is a fucking freak show, bro. People, goodness. And they got to see your own fucking people. God damn, I wish I would have stopped to hit them brakes, bro. I wish I slammed them fucking brakes, hopped out that truck. God damn it. Fuck these motherfuckers, bro. I'm tired of this shit, bro. I was like, yo, how the fuck? This got to be some fraternity shit. It don't fucking matter. Like I say, it goes back to that scripture about a man shouldn't be wearing what a woman wear. But that's a fucking manufacturer, since I said. Sorry, bro. I'm stuck on that shit. Because that shit just fucked my eyeballs up, nigga. It's like somebody dropped some acid and then a dog gonna fart. You stinky butt doggy. You stinky doogie doggy. Goddamn farting and shit. You hit rip one. You like, I hear you, dog. You got gas. Man. Eating too much of that damn high processed food. Shitty ass dog food. Well, yeah, well, sorry, this is off the subject, because that shit just got dang. I was like, man, I gotta bring this shit up. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5. The woman should not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. That nigga was wearing for fucking some fuck. This nigga should be goodness fucking gracious. This nigga should be goddamn. This nigga got to go, nigga. These niggas got to fucking go, bruh. For all that dude, and I don't give a if it was a heathen, that nigga got to go. But it pisses me off the most when it's a Jake that's dressed like that. A heathen, yeah, we know how a heathen get down, especially a Edomite. That nigga need to go automatically, go into chains. But when it's our own people, it's a must. That motherfucker got to go. It hurts me so much when you supposed to be known as a man, the so-called black, Latino, Hispanic, Native Indian, been buck broken mentally. These niggas been butt broken, not physically. They been butt broken mentally. They goddamn nigga. Shit, these niggas need to go, bro. For all that do so are an abomination unto the Lord Yahweh thy God. Please bring. I couldn't do send curses, speak in Hebrew by sending curses on that faggot. But I said, man, I want the Lord to kill that fucking faggot ass nigga. Fuck saying the word destruction. Kill that motherfucker. That nigga should not be breathing until he comes back at reincarnated in his right damn mind. Cause this motherfucker absolutely in his wrong fucking mind. Shit. And the nigga that's walking right beside the motherfucker too. That motherfucker too. And then all you motherfuckers that's all for that green light shit, may the Lord kill your ass. Not destroy you, but kill your ass.
Also very
straight destroying shit. God damn, I hate this world.
Forward, the government fee to apply for a proof of citizenship certificate is 75 Canadian dollars, which is about 55 US dollars. For those with organized records and clear family trees, that may be the only cost. In practice, many applicants are hiring
Lord is bringing destruction to you motherfuckers.
lawyers or genealogists to unearth
And this is one destruction right here, some plagues for your ass.
birth, marriage, and death certificates showing a direct line to a Canadian ancestor. Kunha said she hired
Goddamn financial woes.
an attorney and expects her total bill to reach around 6,500 US dollars. Mary Mangan from Somerville, Massachusetts, submitted her application back in January,
I ain't
relying
gonna play no more of this. You get the idea. These suckers here leaving out of the country. Hey, that's good. That's the indicator letting you know America's going down the hill. Down the toilet. Going down, circling the drain. They going in that septic tank or that sewer. Shit, yeah. And how about Shemal Shah doing it? Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse, oh, this ain't it. No. Jeremiah chapter 51. I'll start with 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. They ain't talking about physically leaving out of here. They ain't talking about mentally and spiritually leaving out of here. Separate your spirit and your mind from this place. This place is... Yeah, I don't want to get into it again, but this place sucks. And it fucks your eyeballs up. It's like somebody dropped some acid in your eyeballs. You be like, oh, my eyes! Shit. Be not cut off in her iniquity. And for you niggas who want to be smart asses, you need to die too, nigga. And try to say be smart asses. And be in a situation you be around a fucking demon and say, you know you like what you see. Fuck you, nigga. I fucking hate these people. Anyway, slog you on that, man. I just fucking hate these people so goddamn bad. That's why I pray every day the Lord bring judgment to these motherfuckers. Every damn day. For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. The Lord's about to bring some fucking pain to you motherfuckers. He will render unto her recompense, payback. Babylon, talking about America, has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. That's why the Lord telling you Israelites, repent, seek the Lord. Be sorry for all the things you said, you done, you thought of, and if the bad things come across in your mind, shake that shit off to your best ability. Anything you say that doesn't sound right, shake that shit off to your best ability. Repent to the Lord. The Lord about to bring some death to you people. Shit. The nations have drunken over wine, therefore the nations are mad. They're going crazy. Following ways of America, the drinking of philosophy or taking in the philosophy of America. Babylon, America is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take bond for her pain, so she may be healed. Yeah, America's not going to be healed. There's no band-aid that's going to fix this bitch up. We would have healed Babylon. Nope, can't heal America. Lord gonna let this bitch bleed and destroy it with fire, with a bunch of other people too. Especially if they take that chip implant. And hell, even if they did take the chip implant, they haven't repented to y'all by Shemal Shah, your ass still could be destroyed. But she is not healed, forsake her. And let us go everyone to his own country. Now that's the part where, hey, people are starting to leave. And there be no heathens leaving out of the country, because they ain't know they was here for business, now they getting the hell. They was here to have freedom. Yeah, like them South African Edomite booty scratchers. Them Edomite booty scratching South Africans. They came over here for a better, they were just basically being used by these American Edomites. They were just being used because they were going through persecution and genocide, white genocide. I'm like, shut the fuck up, nigga. If they suffered through white genocide on South Africa, why them niggas moved back to South Africa? It was all a lie, bro. It was all a lie. It was all a fucking lie. All that bullshit that Esau tried to pull on the media, come to find out this shit was all a lie. And look at them niggas. Them niggas, they went back to Africa to scratch their booty. They went over there, them Edomites went back to the South Africa to scratch their booty, man. They ain't coming over to scratch their booty over in Africa. I mean in America, in Babylon the Great. They came back, they went back to their homeland to scratch their butts. Shit, over there. For her judgment reaches on to heaven and is lifted up even to the sky. So America about to get some destruction like no other. Boy, I hate this world so much. And this country, bro. Fuck you people that's all for this place. Let's get to the next video. I'm fucking mad.
I'm standing in front of a public school which has just turned into a refuge for children and their family.
The war between the United States and Iran is no longer just a military conflict. It has become a global political and economic crisis. And right now, one of Europe's most powerful and unpopular leaders is openly saying what many had been thinking behind closed doors. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has made a striking claim that Iran is humiliating the United States on the world stage. Speaking to students in Germany, Merz didn't hold back, and he offered his vision of the unfolding catastrophe. He argued that Iran isn't even seriously negotiating to end the conflict, which I will address in just a second. Instead, he says, Iran is playing a calculated game. According to him, Iranian officials allowed American envoys to travel all the way to Pakistan for talks, only to refuse to participate at the last minute. So no meeting, no progress, just a diplomatic dead end. Now, we know that this is not exactly the case. It's not the case at all. Iranian officials had indicated beforehand that the United States blockade is a breach of the previously agreed upon ceasefire between the United States and Iran would not be coerced or pressured and would only negotiate on equal terms. In Merz's words, this isn't just a failed negotiation, it's a deliberate strategy, a way to show that Iran can control the pace, the terms, and even the optics of diplomacy, while the United States is left reacting.
Nach Islamabad reisen lassen und ohne Ergebnis wieder abreisen lassen. Da wird eine ganze Nation gedemütigt durch die iranische Staatsführung, vor allem durch diese sogenannten Revolutionsgarden.
Now, arguably, Merz has a point here. Despite being attacked, Iran has been in a driver's seat for weeks now. And I've had multiple interviews over the course of the past several weeks here on my channel. My recent one with Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis was an interesting one. I will link it below. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis said that the United States military cannot defeat Iran. And that's an important point to understand. Now, the frustration voiced by Chancellor Merz isn't just about pride or perception, it's about real-world consequences, especially for Europe. And despite the fact that Merz chooses to frame the issue in a very unique way, that is not exactly an accurate depiction of reality, he makes his point clear. And the humiliation of the United States by Iran is out in the open for anyone to see. Because while talks stall, the war is hitting global energy supplies hard. The United States clearly instigated this war without a clear strategy, and now the entire world has to feel the pain of America's bad decisions. Europe, particularly Germany.
Seemed like it was, well, yeah, bad decisions, but it seemed like it's done deliberately, you know. You could take it one way or another. It's like pretty much all this shit is going to lead people to the chip implant, the mark of the beast. That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying like that, because it seems like it's all orchestrated. But it's ultimately by the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah to let his movie continue on the way he wanted to be, the way Yahweh and Yahweh Shah wanted to be, by their will.
Germany is feeling the pain. Merz made it clear that the crisis is costing Germany massive amounts of money, draining economic strength.
Yeah, the people are going to suffer. And then the devil's going to have a solution. It's going to be the chip implant, the mark of the beast.
And putting pressure on taxpayers. In simple terms, Europe is paying the price for a war that it didn't start and wasn't even consulted on. This is another key point Merz emphasized. Europe was largely left out of the decision-making process when the United States and Israel launched the war. And in
but that's what's going to also cause a Bible prophecy to go down. But they're already showing signs with Europe, the European nations, or the EU, and NATO. Well, mostly European nations, they're going to hate the whore. They already got feeling some kind of way about the whore of America, Babylon the Great, and Amalek. I ain't gonna say Israel. Fuck no. I'm gonna say Amalek, or just say United States of Amalek all together, because they're all together. They gonna hate that whore.
Inside, he said. He would have pushed back much harder if he had known how long and destructive the conflict would become. Now, European countries are scrambling to respond to the aftermath of the US-Iran war. Germany has joined a coalition of more than 50 nations that is led by France and the United Kingdom to figure out how to secure the Strait of Hormuz once the fighting stops. Of course, there's really not much to say about that. Iran has actually maintained that the Strait of Hormuz is open for those countries that are not belligerent. Merz, of course, even suggested that Germany is ready to send minesweepers to help clear the waters, but here's where things get even more complicated. At the same time, diplomatic efforts are clearly breaking down. From the outside, it looks chaotic, of course, and that is exactly what Merz is pointing to. While the White House is trying to project confidence, the entire world sees that the United States has already lost the war. Officials say the U.S., quote, holds the cards and will only agree to a deal that protects American interests and prevents Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, which it didn't seek to develop in the first place, according to multiple U.S. intelligence agencies' reports, and even Tulsi Gabbard, who stated as much last soft fall. But the reality on the ground tells a more complicated story. Negotiations are stalled, energy markets are unstable, allies are frustrated, and Iran appears to be leveraging both military pressure and diplomatic ambiguity to its advantage. So what we're seeing right now isn't just a war. This is a high-stakes geopolitical chess match. What's clear is that the longer this drags on, the higher the cost, not just for the United States and Iran, of course, but for the entire global economy. Energy prices, trade routes, political alliances, everything is being tested as we speak. And as European leaders like Merz become more vocal, the cracks in Western unity are clearly starting to show. This conflict is no longer contained, it is global, it is strategic, and it's far from over, unfortunately. Speaking of Germany, Europe's economic powerhouse at a point in time, the country may be heading into something far more dangerous than a short-term slowdown. According
to get to another video. If you want to watch the rest of it, they go to title, they go to channel. See what they're talking about here. And some more talk about U.S. and Germany. Think about military-related stuff.
Germany can now produce more ammunition than the United States, according to the head of German defense giant Rheinmetall, as a massive rearmament campaign gets underway across Europe. Rheinmetall has more than quadrupled its annual production of medium-caliber ammunition and ramped up output of artillery rounds to 1.1 million, up from 70,000, Chief Executive Armin Paperger told reporters last week. So that is not incremental growth, that is a 15-fold increase in artillery shell production in under 4 years. Medium-caliber ammunition production jumped from 800,000 to over 4 million rounds annually. Military truck production increased from 600 to 4,500 per year, so this is Germany rebuilding industrial-scale military manufacturing from nearly nothing and doing it faster than the USA can keep pace. Amel, I have a PhD in computer science and I use data analysis to spot patterns in geopolitics and economics. Let's look at why this matters beyond defense procurement metrics. European countries are rushing to refill military stockpiles after US President Donald Trump last year warned NATO members that they needed to spend more on defense and rely less on the US. Concerns over whether the US under Trump would come to Europe's aid in the event of Russian aggression have fueled political momentum to make the continent's armed forces more formidable, particularly as European countries have been transferring ammunition, tanks, and other military equipment to Ukraine for 4 years straight now. The ammunition production surge is not really preparation for future conflicts, it is a response to America becoming unreliable right now. Germany's Chancellor Merz has said Europe should rely less on the US. Since being elected in February 2025, he has driven a major push to increase German defense spending, a break from the country's decades-long post-World War II demilitarization policy. That is a fundamental strategic shift. Germany spent 75 years deliberately keeping its military small, relying on NATO, meaning American forces and American logistics, for continental defense. But now they're building what Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said last week would be the strongest conventional army in Europe by 2039. That would be a century from the start of World War II, so it's quite an interesting timing. Let's zoom in on what triggered the production acceleration. Rheinmetall says it has been increasing ammunition production since 2022, when Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russia's invasion exposed just how quickly modern conflict consumes ammunition and how poorly most Western industrial models were positioned to respond. Both sides fired artillery at a scale that exceeded NATO's planning assumption, draining stockpiles and revealing how dependent allied nations had become on production infrastructure that couldn't meet surge requirements. Rheinmetall's new Lower Saxony plant in Unterlüß, Germany, capable of producing up to 350,000 155mm projectiles per year, was constructed in just 15 months. A major modernization of its Aschau energetics facility delivered a 40% increase in multi-base propellant production capacity in just 18 months. The senior director of business development at American Rheinmetall Munitions said, and I'm quoting here, "We did it in 18 months. That is unheard of in the US. Germany is built..."
The allies outdoing America. And America, yeah, they're outdoing, anyway.
Building ammunition plants faster than the USA can approve environmental permits. The piece that most coverage misses, however, is that this is not just about ammunition volume. It is more about Europe proving that it can organize industrial mobilization without American leadership. NATO countries pledged in June 2025 to spend 5% of their gross domestic product on their militaries and related infrastructure costs each year within the next decade. Several nations were not meeting the alliance's previous defense spending target of 2% of GDP ahead of last summer, making this the most significant hike in military investment across Europe in decades. Global military spending increased by nearly 3% last year compared to 2024, largely the result of a 14% rise in European defense expenditure, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. We've actually got a whole playlist on how Europe is systematically building strategic autonomy. Check it out after this video. The ammunition production surge is just one component of a broader military independence push. Ammunition is currently in very high demand across Western armies, particularly rounds for artillery systems, which protect troops in battle and hit high-value targets like depots and command centers. Ukraine burns through tens of thousands of shells weekly. European stockpiles are depleted from years of transfers. The US industrial base, optimized for precision munitions and air power, cannot really produce mass artillery at that scale conventional ground war requires. Germany just filled that gap. The financial and operational footprint is also very significant here. Rheinmetall has grown by 30 to 50% annually in recent years. This year, growth is expected to be around 40%, so that is a significant number too. CEO Paperger put expected revenue at 14 to 15 billion euros. 65% of goods are exported primarily to other NATO countries. Germany is not just arming itself, it is becoming Europe's arsenal. The company has around 44,000 employees currently, so that is a significant amount. If Rheinmetall grows to up to 70,000 employees by 2030 and around 200 310,000 more people are part of the supply chain, this would correspond to a third of the entire automotive industry. That is a significant structural shift in German industrial employment from cars to weapons.
Yeah, that's another thing. Hell, they're talking about on the news. America ain't the only one that's starting to use major automakers here to switch over to, you know, making weapons and probably making, I don't know, just stuff for war and shit. Weapons and ammunition and vehicles for war. But these other countries, Germany, one of them. We talked about that with Volkswagen. They started somewhat slowing down production on their cars to produce weapons of war, vehicles of war, just like they did in World War II. But anyway, really all the automakers were doing that shit during World War II.
Transformation is happening because Europe concluded American protection is conditional and insufficient. In contrast to previous decades in which the company had to...
America's more about protecting the small hat people, the baby dick suckers.
Struggle with a difficult image. Last year alone, 350,000 applications were received worldwide, 250,000 of them in Germany, Paprika said. People even rang his doorbell, apparently, and said they wanted to work at Rheinmetall, so that is a significant cultural shift. Defense work was stigmatized in post-war Germany. Now it's a growth sector attracting top talent because Germans understand their security depends on domestic capacity, not American guarantees. When thinking about how industrial capacity translates into geopolitical leverage, my book, Awake the Practice of Critical Thinking in an Age of Self-Lies...
I'm going to stop right there, but these nations are getting ready for war. And there goes some shit going on with satellites. They say U.S. versus China. They're hitting satellite war you didn't know.
Right now, the United States is trying to control what the world can see in this war. But in doing that, it may have just handed that power to China. Everyone's asking the same question right now. Where is China in this war with Iran? And does its absence prove that the United States is still the undisputed global power, making all this talk of a multipolar world meaningless? Now, that narrative gained traction, especially during the early days of the war. But it misses something far more important. China was never going to show up with warships or fighter jets. That was never the strategy. As many serious China watchers keep pointing out, Beijing will not confront Washington directly. Instead, it's letting the United States overextend itself. And in that sense, what we're seeing right now is simply benefiting China, as Washington pours resources into another volatile conflict while weakening its own long-term position. Even publications like The Economist have hinted at this dynamic, framing the situation as one where the United States' actions could be accelerating its own strategic decline. Meanwhile, China's approach has been subtle but deliberate, condemning American and Israeli strikes as violations of the international law, and through Xi Jinping quietly emphasizing stability in the critical choke points like the Strait of Hormuz, signaling that while China may not appear on the battlefield, it is far from absent in shaping the outcome. Recently, Donald Trump made a cryptic claim that the United States forces had stopped a ship heading towards Iran carrying what he described as a gift from China, adding only that its contents were not very nice. Now, it strongly implies that there may have been potentially military or dual-use materials, and he didn't confirm the specifics. The interception reportedly occurred amid the heightened naval tensions and enforcement actions in that region at the time. But while the ship's links to China and Iran trade routes were noted, there's been no public verification of what that cargo was itself. And China has rejected the accusations entirely, leaving those statements as a strategic signal rather than a fully substantiated disclosure. American intelligence is reported to have warned that China is preparing to send shoulder-fired rockets, the sort that could hit helicopters and low-flying planes. Yet China has realistically offered very little by the way of serious economic, diplomatic or military aid to Iran. It's more indirect, and perhaps its more important contribution comes from space. Now, social media is awash with images of the Middle East, which have been taken by Chinese satellites, and they've been released by Chinese firms. This comes just after American firms have clamped down on that same information under pressure from the Trump administration. Over the last year, really picking up from Iran war in 2025 at that time, and now in 2026, the United States has started pulling back on something that used to be taken for granted, open source intelligence. So for years, anyone from journalists to random analysts online could track ships or aircrafts, look at satellite images, and piece together independently what was happening in real time. But that's changing now. Companies like Maxar Technologies, basically one of the main sources of this detailed space imagery, and Planet Labs have started limiting access. They've started delaying images and tightening who can see what. The same goes for ship tracking and flight data. It's still there, but it's not as open or as detailed as it used to be, especially in sensitive areas like the Gulf. The reason isn't complicated either. It's because the open source started becoming a problem. By the mid-2025, during that Iran war escalation at the time, US officials realized that the exact same tools that journalists were using were also being used by their competitors, in this case, Iran. Battlefield transparency meant you could track US warships moving through the Strait of Hormuz, watch the aftermath of strikes through satellite images, and even use AI tools to connect the dots and figure out the patterns. Now that's a big deal in a live conflict. So behind the scenes, the Trump administration leaned being the word, on these American companies and made the argument that if this data is helping the other side in real time, it shouldn't be out there for anyone to use. In other words, the United States didn't shut the information down entirely. It just redirected it only for its own military. And the effect of that is already showing. It's not like everything has disappeared, but things are slower, they're less clear, and they're harder to verify. If you're watching a conflict from the outside, you're now seeing less of what is actually happening and more of what governments are choosing to show us. And by tightening the access to these tools, it reflects that broader push to treat data as a strategic...
You can't really believe everything that's on the news when it comes to war. Shit, sometimes they ain't, but we whatever. Especially war, but whatever.
Asset and not as a public good. Now, in economics, we know that information is supposed to be a public good, something that improves transparency and efficiency. But in wars, of course, that logic flips. What Washington didn't fully account for is that it no longer controls this space the way it once did. For years, the most advanced commercial satellite imagery was dominated by Western, especially American companies.
Yeah, and they were also the first to be on the moon. Yeah, I brought that up. That's bullshit. And oh yeah, they also tell you another lie. They circled around the moon recently. Yeah.
But that monopoly is now breaking down. China's Earth observation capabilities have expanded rapidly, both in scale and in quality, meaning that high-resolution imagery is no longer something that only the West can provide. In practical terms, even if US firms restrict access, alternatives now exist, and they're getting better. There's growing evidence that Iran has leaned into that shift. Chinese firms like China CYE, which operates under the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, has been linked to capturing high-resolution images of the US military positions. At the same time, reporting has suggested that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is said to have acquired an access to Chinese satellite capabilities as early as 2024. Now that satellite...
Man.
But it seems
Lord helping these other nations step their game up now. In America, shit, y'all becoming big old losers. Let's get to the next video. I'm gonna get into a scripture. I just want to play.
All right, moving on.
I want to play this one, then get into a scripture. Cause both that first video about the satellite and this about Russia got some new missiles, it got me wanting to read this scripture in Joel.
Weapon is changing the dynamics of the war in Ukraine. Russia, remember, has unveiled a new cruise missile, the S-71K Kova, while Ukraine has warned its own troops. President Volodymyr Zelensky says that the military will continue to carry out deep strikes inside Russia. Take a look at this report for more details.
Sleek, stealthy. Russia's newest aerial weapon is changing the dynamics of Ukraine war. S-71K Kovar is meant for high-stakes, long-range aerial combat. This air-launched cruise missile has been exclusively built for Su-57 fighter jet. Popularly known as a standoff weapon, Kovar allows a pilot to fire at a target from a safe distance, well outside the range of an enemy's local air defenses. The missile features a stealthy shape and folding wings that help it to stay hidden from radar. The exterior is made from multi-layer fiberglass and composite materials designed to be both lightweight and difficult for sensors to track. The most surprising part of the missile is what it carries inside its nose.
So it's like them damn drones that Iran, I guess. They're like the drones that Iran launched, but they're much faster. And probably more expensive, too. They can't be detected fast enough.
A high explosive bomb that dates back to Cold War era.
Oh.
Kovar has a range of up to 300 kilometers. It cruises at altitudes of up to 27.
Ain't that fast. Well, it's 0.6 Machs. I mean, yeah.
1,000 feet.
It's about not like speed, it's about stealth.
at speeds of roughly Mach 0.6.
So what is that? What's that Mach? Mach. How fast? I'm just gonna word it out instead of typing it. Oh my goodness, how long is this gonna take? Goodness fucking gracious. This shit just, oh my goodness. Let me exit this shit. That shit is fucking garbage, bro. How fast is 0.6 Mach? Not month. Mach. No, this is 6. I said point. Oh shit, 460 miles per hour. That's like a drag racer. Funny car. Well, funny car, they can top out at like 300 miles per hour. Funny car or either damn drag, or what are the ones that's not like a, they got that long narrow front end and shit. I forgot what a dragsters, I guess. Anyway, but that's pretty fast. Let's see what one Mach is. 767 miles per hour. Yeah. Shit, let's see how fast a chariot will go. A chariot, how about Shema Rashah? Shit, 1,000 now. Nothing on this earth can go 1,000 Machs. At least they can't even go 10. But the chariots of the Lord, shit, they can go. They just basically teleport. Fuck a damn the speed. They can, if they want to go that fast, they just basically move so fast they damn near teleport. Just like boom, like that, zero. Anyway, back to the video.
This combination allows Su-57 to launch the missile.
If any new viewers don't know anything about the chariots of the Lord, you better know. Because those are vehicles of our salvation. Also, they're the curse of the whole earth. Yeah, they can destroy shit. Those on so-called UFOs. That the world unique call.
In friendly airspace.
These little shitty ass jets and shit can't catch, can't touch, can't do nothing against the Lord's his ships. No.
Making it much harder for Ukrainian air defenses to intercept the plane before it releases its payload. The S-71K was first spotted in late last year. Its appearance signals a new phase in the air war, where stealthy, long-range strikes are becoming a standard tactic. For Ukraine, this means a tougher battle in the skies, a weapon that's harder to detect, harder to intercept, and easier for Russia to deploy at a scale. President Volodymyr Zelensky vows Ukraine will not stop. It will keep increasing the range of its strikes in Russia. Kiev has stepped up its attacks inside Russia in recent weeks.
Anyway, Joel chapter 3 verse 9, when it comes to China and their satellites and and Russia with their jets, with their missiles and such, the Lord's giving them the weaponry to do what they doing. And it was so bad, hell, Americans' allies are outproducing America when it comes to not ammunition, but munition or whatever you fucking call it. Well, anyway, and America pretty slow. They slow poking with their production of stuff, weapons and such. They don't seem to be the big dogs anymore of producing weapons and such. Well, anyway, Joel chapter 3 verse 9, proclaim ye among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat their plowshares into swords and their pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Where's the last? This is the last one. Let's get it.
The US and Israeli bombing of Iran may have strengthened the case for nuclear weapons everywhere in the world. After Iran, every vulnerable state heard the same message. Now, West Asia war may trigger a global nuclear race. Here's a report.
A chilling warning from Rafael Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency. The world is drifting towards a nuclear breakpoint. Up to 20 countries could soon move towards building nuclear weapons. The Iran war has shattered whatever trust remained in global security guarantees. Countries are watching. And they are learning one thing. Nuclear weapons may be the only real insurance.
Yeah! Man. I just got another video too added in. This one right here.
East
Sorry,
Asia
I'm just saying yeah because it's prophecy, man. I'm fucking tired of this place.
to Europe, the shift is already visible. Japan, South Korea, Poland, Sweden, all are now openly debating whether they need the bomb. The very idea of breaking away from nuclear non-proliferation treaty, once unthinkable, is now being discussed in policy circles. The risks are already escalating. According to reports, North Korea's secretive nuclear program is accelerating. China is quietly expanding its arsenal at a steady pace. And in Syria, after the fall of the Assad regime, there are fears of missing nuclear material. Today, the world holds around 12,000 nuclear warheads. Nearly 90% are controlled by just two countries, the United States and Russia. But that balance is now under threat. Countries like Poland, Turkey and Saudi Arabia are signaling clearly, if alliances weaken, they may have no choice but to arm themselves. And the warning gets even darker. Nobel laureate David Gross says humanity may have just 35 years left, with nuclear war as the greatest threat, because the more nuclear states there are, the more complex the world becomes.
Let me get a scripture on that. Let me see. Matter of fact, let me get to this one, then I'll get to the scriptures.
Right, let's tell you how U.S. President Donald Trump has now
last video, then we get to the scriptures.
issued a fresh threat to Iran. This, remember, comes amid attempts to continue the negotiations in the last few days appear to have stalled, and with reports now suggesting that America may actually extend the blockade of Iran's ports. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump shared an AI-generated image of himself. As you can see, the picture shows him
Nigga, please.
holding an assault-style rifle against a backdrop of explosions and warlike scenes. The post has carried the message, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." In fact, Trump has warned Iran to
they got an AI picture of him holding an AR-15 or assault rifle, and he want to ban. You know this nigga want to ban all you dumbass Americans for having all these damn weapons. They don't want you to have no guns.
Smart soon, clearly signaling a possible military action if Tehran does not comply with U.S. demands. He also said that Iran must not acquire a nuclear weapon, adding that the country could not get its act together. Iran has hit back at the U.S. Defense Ministry spokesperson Riza Tlaibnik told Washington to roll back what he described as illegal and irrational demands. He made these remarks while attending a meeting of defense ministers from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. A senior Iranian lawmaker has issued a strong counter warning to America, saying that if the U.S. continues intercepting Iranian vessels, Tehran could turn to its regional allies. He warned that Iran may ask the Houthi movement in Yemen to target the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, which is a critical route for global trade.
Alright, anyway, whatever. I thought this was going to be talking about something. I wasn't sure. But it's the same old shit. Yeah. But anyway, I'm still going to read these scriptures though. Revelation chapter 11 verse 14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. The second woe, not first, but the second woe was involving a lot of destruction, and it was involved, what was it, atomic bombs. The third one going to be involved a lot of destruction. I could keep saying Lord or Lord, just hold on to it, but I got to let it go. I got to breathe. But anyway, a lot of destruction. And it's gonna be involved with nuclear. It's gonna dwarf the shit out of what they did to Yakashaka Sukasumi, whatever you call them Japanese things, whatever the fuck. Anyway, they gonna fuck. The whole world's gonna get shaken, rattle, and roll when the Lord allows these damn heathens to unleash all their nuclear arsenals or ballistic missiles with the nuclear warheads. Yep, and that's gonna be it for all them niggas. The world is gonna. It's gonna be the end. It's gonna be like a whole big change. It's gonna be the end of America and the end of this wicked ass rulership. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Yep, missiles, big missiles, small missiles, bigger missiles. You know, all kind of missiles, rockets. Yeah. Joel chapter 3 verse. Oh, I already read that one. Oh, the next one I need to read is read this one. Isaiah chapter 54, verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And that instrument be the nuclear warheads. And I have created the waster to destroy, and that will be the nuclear warheads. Now the ICBMs and the intercontinental ballistic missiles, they just carrying the payload that's gonna bring the most destruction. They carrying it, and they gonna release it up high up in the air. And you got different type of missiles that don't travel like that or don't maneuver like that. You'll have missiles that stay at a certain altitude but travel just going straight. They'll go up and they'll go straight out. They'll go up at a certain distance and they go straight out. They might go off the ground like 300 feet off the ground and go straight up. Straight out to their destination. Yep. And they'll have nuclear capabilities or nuclear warheads attached to that too. Maybe one, maybe two. I don't know. It depends on what the size of the missile is. But still, the Lord's created the smith to blow the coals. And then using it formed the daggone instrument for his work. And that will be called the waster to destroy. Yep. Pray like heaven you don't get caught up by that waster, the nuclear destruction. But anyway, that's all I got to say, man. But seek Yahweh by Shema Shah by seeking his prophets, because these things are happening. Prophecies are popping off. It ain't all of them happening yet at one time, but they building up. So you want to pray like heaven. You try to build a spiritual mental relationship with Yahweh by Shema Shah by praying Yahweh by Shema Shah, praising Yahweh by Shema Shah, worship Yahweh by Shema Shah, fearing Yahweh by Shema Shah, and repenting to Yahweh by Shema Shah. To all the men out there pushing this truth and nothing but the truth in the name, spirit, the power of Yahweh by Shema Shah. Keep on preaching, keep on teaching, keep your faith and trust strong. Yahweh by Shema Shah, stay humble. And for you few sisters out there taking heed, keep your faith and trust strong. Yahweh by Shema Shah, stay humble, stay in order with your man. If you ain't got no man, stay in order. Yahweh by Shema Shah. Peace and bless to the hopeful elect, and all praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. Shalom.